I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the NBA Recap. Yes, sir. Back in another video, back in that episode. And today, man. I know I'm like 95 years late with this subject, but I'm gonna talk about it because I don't care and nobody watches my videos. So, I'm going to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks, man. The Milwaukee Bucks and how they can improve their roster and obviously coming off their championship run. And how they got to the championship and how they can improve into the future. Which is also very complicated and very interesting. So that's why I think the Milwaukee Bucks will be one of the most interesting teams in this offseason. Also, I want to talk about why and how these videos are going to start going. And maybe if I get to that, maybe I won't. I don't know. I'm lazy. Nah, I'm kidding. But yeah, man. But without further ado, let's get into the video, man. Now, unless you've been living under a rock or you just don't watch basketball, the Milwaukee Bucks are NBA champions, man. They're NBA champions. They beat the Phoenix Suns in 6 games and beat them pretty handily. I understand there were close games here and there, but at the end of the day, they beat them pretty handily. They got all the big moments. They got all the 50-50 balls. They did everything they could to win, and they just wanted it more over the Phoenix Suns, led by Chris Paul and Devin Booker. They won the championship. Giannis got his Finals MVP. He got his MVP. Small market team, great everything. Under the circumstances, they did pull it out. They were the last team standing. I mean, literally, because every other team was unhealthy. But they just pulled through everything they can, and it was a great way to end their season, especially how everyone was viewing them in the regular season and in some points in these playoffs. But what's crazy about it is that they did it with all composure, even though the world sometimes hated them for some stupid shit they did in some of these games, in these series. But also at the same time, they're able to fight through adversity and be able to win a championship, even with Drew Holiday not being great offensively, and Chris Middleton being wishy-washy and very inconsistent. But at the end of the day, he pulled through at the end. So we're just going to go through their little playoff run that they had and see what, could have changed or what could have been different. Obviously, they mollywopped the Miami Heat, revenge from last year. This was kind of when I knew that the Bucks were being different this year. They decided they had an opportunity to not face the Miami Heat, but instead they did face the Miami just to beat their ass, and I loved it. I loved what I see. Obviously, the Miami Heat weren't at full health because people are forgetting that Victor Oladipo was not in the lineup because he had, I think, knee surgery once again, and he was not in there. But I think they'll be better next year. Obviously, Victor Oladipo being there and having that another scoring option. But at the same time, the Bucks mollywopped them 4-0 pretty easily. I mean, Jimmy Butler was held to terrible efficiency on terrible points and being terribly ass. People were, I don't think Jimmy Butler is overrated, but at the same time, I think we're overrating him because of his playoff series last year with the Lakers and the entire playoffs. He was going crazy, 40-point triple-doubles, 30-point triple-doubles, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, he was doing crazy things and was good to see him being that guy. But at the same time, there is a reality to it in this playoff series. He was ass. I understand that could have been fatigue from last year because they only had a 72-day rest, something like that, like the Lakers. But at the same time, they weren't able to pull through, and the Bucks mollywopped them pretty easily. And then the Bucks went on to face my Brooklyn Nets and a pretty much injured Brooklyn Nets because at the point of the first game, James Harden got injured, and it was in like 42 seconds of that game, got injured, did not return until I believe it was game 5. I think it was game 5. And it got even worse because Kyrie Irving got also injured, and he was not terrible. He was just out for the series. I didn't think he was going to come back in the series because the Nets didn't want to risk that, but at the same time, the Bucks obviously took advantage there, or they still played pretty well. They came back from a blowout and into their building in Game 3. But Giannis and the Bucks played pretty well. Giannis was going head to head with Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant was really literally a one-man show. Was probably the only offensive threat that the Nets had at that point because Joe Harris was a no-show. Jeff Green had one good game. Blake Griffin had one good game, and it was just a way to just beat a pretty injured team, and obviously still won 7. But obviously we know that if Kyrie, even one of them was there at full health, they'd probably beat the Bucks. But at the same time, we don't know that, and we can't speculate that because the Bucks are where they are now. They are champions. So yeah, they were able to do that as well. And also, they were able to move through this playoff run, move through and get an emotional game 7 where people were doubting them. People saying, it's on the Brooklyn Nets floor. They're going to lose. Blase, blase. Giannis is not that guy. He can't close. Blase, blase. Chris Middleton's the closer. Chris Middleton is Batman. I'm not going to forget that Kendrick Perkins. But at the same time, yeah, they did their thing. They move on to face the Hawks after they stunned the 76ers in a game 7, and they are moving on to the Eastern Conference Finals where they face the Hawks where they face the Hawks. Now, everyone was pretty surprised that the Hawks won. Everyone was saying, 5-game series, it could be 4-game series. But no, the Hawks came into their building and gave them their only home loss of the playoffs, which was insane. The Hawks team in the future is going to be bright. We all know that, but we're not talking about them today. We're talking about the Bucks and how they were able to recover from this defeat in the game 1. This is the game where Trae Young had, I believe, 48 points and 11 assists. Crazy efficiency. Also, he wasn't really that good in the second half, but at the same time, he just still did his thing and hit very tough shots and was being aggressive. But unfortunately, after the Bucks reclaimed another couple games, I believe it was game 2 and game 3, Trae Young went down in injury, and it was mayhem because they didn't know what to do. But at the same time, the Hawks still won that game, the game that Trae Young went out, and they were able to kind of extend the series to 6 games. But obviously, the Bucks came through without. And also, what's crazy about that is the next following game, Giannis got injured and hyperextended his knee and was out for 2 games. And the Bucks still managed to beat the Hawks in 6 games and move on to the NBA Finals. Was a great last 2 games. Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, they both offensively were great. They almost nearly had a triple double, both of them in the same game at the same time in those 2 games. And Brook Lopez was looking like the Brooklyn Nets Brook Lopez. At the same time, they're just doing their best to stay in the series, doing their best to be in the series, and also doing their best to be the best. And what I appreciate from the Bucks is that they didn't lose their composure, they didn't lose their swag, because at the same time, Trae Young did try to come back in Game 6, but he obviously was not the same. He also made terrible shots and was not very effective in that final Game 6. But that propelled the Milwaukee Bucks to move on into the next round, which is obviously the NBA Finals, to face the Phoenix Suns, who would also be an injury-riddled team in the NBA. So, yeah, they had similar paths, but at the same time, they converged into the NBA Finals with 2 healthiest teams left, and we got to see what was going on. Now, this was the game that people did not think Giannis was going to come back in these NBA Finals because he did hyperextend his knee. That took Joel Embiid out, I believe, like 2 or 3 weeks. But at the same time, he came and he was okay. He always had a decent game, but it wasn't like a great game like he had in the rest of the the rest of the series. He had, I believe, 20 and 17. Great couple games, but they also got mollywopped by the Phoenix Suns in game 1, where I believe CP3 had a big game. I think he had like 32 points in 8 assists or some shit like that. But they were able to do that. They were able to beat the Bucks pretty handily, and then they came into the game to also beat the Bucks after Giannis had a historic 42 point game. And unfortunately, the rest of the Bucks did not show. Chris Middleton was a no-show. Drew Holiday was a no-show. Although Drew Holiday was great defensively, at the same time, they were still bad, and they weren't able to get another game. But in Game 3, all that changed because they were in the Pfizer Forum Stadium in Milwaukee, and they were able to beat the Suns pretty handily. I believe it was a 20-point win, and they beat the Suns. Giannis once again had another 40-point game, and they went crazy. It was a great game, and also had a lot of different things going on, and it was nice. Also, before in the series, Giannis had a mean chase down block, which is another moment edged in NBA history. But that wasn't the only block of the playoff series, because in Game 4, he came in and the Phoenix Suns were wanting to win another game. But Giannis, although he didn't have the greatest game ever, he did have one of the greatest games. I believe that he did a little bit of everything. It was like 28, 10, 8, 28, 11, 8, with like 3 blocks and 2 steals, something like that. And he was absolutely insane. He had one of the most iconic NBA blocks in NBA Finals history, where he blocked a alley-oop from DeAndre Ayton while being guarded by the alley personnel, which was Devin Booker, and also being able to stab it with an iconic block, which is edged up with LeBron James, maybe even number 2 or number 1, depending on who you ask. But at the same time, they were able to do that and able to move on. Now, they obviously, Chris Middleton had a big game, which was a 40-point game. I believe it was that game that he had. And also, Drew Holiday had a decent, not really game, but he did hit some big shots in the end that were able to propel them. Obviously, the Phoenix Suns had a bit of a lead going into the fourth quarter, and they were able to do that and able to move on to Game 5. And obviously we all know the saying that no series is won, no series is started until the home team wins on an away floor, and we got that where the Milwaukee Bucks strike first, and they were able to beat the Suns in Game 5 at the Phoenix Suns Arena, which is now called some other arena. I don't know what it's called, but they were able to beat them in Game 5 in a close game where Giannis once again had an iconic play where on the stolen play by Drew Holiday, because Drew Holiday had a coming out party of that game because he had a mean game. He had a lot of threes, and it was the Drew Holiday game if people had dubbed it, which I had dubbed it as well. And Chris Middleton had a pretty decent game as well. And Giannis also had a great game. He had 32, 9, and 6. He did a little bit of everything, and it was great to see. Now, this was a close game. It was a very close game. I believe Devin Booker had a 40-point game as well. I think he had a 40-point game in Game 4 as well, but it did not. And also, Devin Booker had like 86 fouls that game, so that's what happens. But in Game 5, I believe he also had a 40-point game, but at the end of the day, it did not pan well because Chris Paul wasn't doing much of shit. So the Milwaukee Bucks took advantage of that and were able to win. It was high drama, high stakes. I think that kind of decimated the Phoenix Suns offense and confidence as well because DeAndre Ayton was a no-show for most of the series, and they were able to do things. They were able to do everything they could. Now Cam Johnson, I believe, was the only really consistent guy on the Phoenix Suns, but he wasn't even able to help them at the end of the day because at the end of the day, it still is Cam Johnson. He's not like the best player on the team, but he is a very solid player. And I'm very high on Cam Johnson, but he wasn't a guy. At the same time, the Suns weren't doing anything they could. The Suns weren't doing what they were doing, and the Milwaukee Bucks took advantage. They were able to run through the floor, and obviously, Drew Holiday. We also the last play. Drew Holiday stole the ball from Devin Booker. Similarly in Game 4, he did the same thing with Chris Paul. But at the end of the game, but at the same time, this was in Game 5, where he stole the ball from Devin Booker, drove off the floor. Giannis was trailing, and he threw the alley-oop to Giannis to get the N1 bucket and one foul slam, and it was nice to see another iconic moment where Giannis was like this at the end because he had thrown it down and got the foul. Obviously, he missed the free throw, but at the same time, he still tapped it out for Chris Middleton to get the ball and to basically seal the game, and steal it. Then it was the faithful Game 6, where it was basically Giannis and vibes because he was the only source of offense they had. The Phoenix Suns had a considerable lead in this game, but also the Milwaukee Bucks were still going hard. It was just Giannis, and oh wait, Giannis, and they were able to do their thing incredibly because they were able to go crazy and do what they could to win. Giannis had 50 points in the closeout game, 14 rebounds, and 5 blocks. He put out a defensive clinic and was literally an all-time great playoff series, all-time great playoff performance, and that's why he was holding the Finals MVP like he was meant to be. Now, now the Milwaukee Bucks had won their championship. What do you do with this roster going into next season? Well, I don't know, man. I really don't know. The Milwaukee Bucks are going to be very interesting this offseason because you just signed Giannis to a supermax contract, which I believe kicks in next year. Drew Holiday, you just signed him to a max contract. You're still stuck with Chris Middleton, and that's I believe around $480 million between their big three. So it's not a lot of room to make some money and make some changes to your roster. Do you want to keep PJ Tucker? Do you want to pay Dante DiVincenzo? Do you want to pay Pat Connaughton? Do you want to keep Bobby Portis? Brook Lopez is still on your team. Should you let go of Jeff Teague? Let go of Jeff Teague. But at the same time, we don't know, man. We don't know. I'd say you keep. I think Bobby Portis is probably going to ask for more money because he was an energy guy. The people in the NBA love energy guys nowadays. Just ask Phoenix Suns because they seriously needed one. But at the same time, it's hard to gauge where they are because me personally, I don't feel like the Milwaukee Bucks are going to come back to the NBA Finals because they have to go against the Brooklyn Nets, the Philadelphia 76ers, depending on what they do. The Atlanta Hawks who are now there. The Boston Celtics will be better. We don't know what's going to happen with the Milwaukee Bucks next year. I don't think they're going to make the finals, and maybe a year from now when the NBA Finals is over and they're champions again, maybe I'll look stupid. But at the same time, who knows, man? Who knows? It's going to be hard to see, especially when they're versing against unhealthy teams in the West. Hopefully, barring any injury, that they're still healthy in the West. You know, the Lakers, Clippers, or Kawhi. We don't know what's gonna happen with Kawhi. The Nuggets will be back fully healthy with Jamal Murray. The Warriors can potentially be back. The Utah Jazz, hey, they could try and go for a revenge season once again for the 55th billionth time. The Phoenix Suns could come back. We don't know, but I don't think the Phoenix Suns will make the finals either. But they will still be there. So who knows, man? Who knows, man? It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard for the Milwaukee Bucks to try and come back and make something happen out of nothing. But even though it's not out of nothing, they just won a championship. But at the same time, hey, Milwaukee Bucks, man. Milwaukee Bucks. Respect the Milwaukee Bucks for winning the championship, for being the healthiest team in the NBA, and for Giannis being the great player that he is. And he is the best player in the NBA right now. My top 10 list is coming in my next video. And yeah, like, comment, share, subscribe. And we out. Peace.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't